In this presentation, I want to examine the multi-products break-even analysis, CVP analysis for multi-product companies, where sales means are not given. In my first two presentations, the first one covered the break-even point for single company, where the various formula used to calculate the break-even points were provided. In the second one, I examined the break-even point for multi-product company, where sales means are given. In this third video on break-even point, I want to examine the calculation of break-even point where sales means is not given. What do you mean by break-even? I'm telling you that at the break-even level, the total revenue equal to the total cost. If revenue equal to cost, that means there will be no profit at the break-even level. Neither will there be any loss. So the level at which there will be no profit and there will be no loss, that is revenue equal to cost, that level is said to be the break-even level. If at the break-even point, the total revenue equal to total cost. So what are the steps for calculating the break-even point for multi-product company where sales means are not given? Step 1. Steps. Number 1. Calculate the weighted contribution margin ratio. Another word for contribution margin ratio is CS ratio or profit volume ratio. So weighted CMR, that is the first step. Step 2, calculate the overall break-even point in sales value. Calculate the overall break-even point in sales value. By overall break-even point in sales value, that is the break-even point for all the products. And that will be obtained by dividing the total fixed cost by the weighted CMR. Total fixed cost divided by the weighted CMR. Step 3. Calculate the break-even point in sales value for each of the products. To obtain this, you apportion the BEP, the overall BEP in sales value computed in step 2 above by the weighted selling price. You know, the weighted selling price is the selling price per unit multiplied by the sales volume or number of units sold, which is the same as the total sales revenue. Use it to apportion the BEP in sales value computed in step 2. Step 4. Calculate the BEP in units. To calculate the BEP in unit, divide the BEP in sales value obtained from step 3 by the selling price. Selling price per unit. These are the steps for calculating the break-even points for the multi-product company. Now, I want to know that in step 1, where I said you should calculate the weighted CMR. To calculate the weighted CMR equal to weighted contribution or your total contribution over weighted selling price or total sales value. This will give you the weighted CMR. Weighted C contribution. Your weighted contribution equals to contribution margin, that is contribution per unit. Contribution margin per unit times sales volume or number of units sold. So that is for that. Where weighted selling price, I've told you that your weighted selling price is the same as total sales value. Weighted selling price, I said it will be selling price per unit times sales volume or number of units sold. This will give you the weighted selling price. Then, before I take a work example, I want to examine margin of safety. Although this has been considered in my first video. Margin of safety is the difference between the budgeted sales and the break-even level of sales. Margin of safety, MOS, equal to budgeted sales minus BEP. You can use your unit, your budgeted sales in unit. If you use your budgeted sales in unit, then that means you use BEP in units. But if you use budgeted sales value, you use the break-even point in sales value. Where margin of safety ratio will now be budgeted sales minus BEP over budgeted sales times 100 over 1. So these are what you are expected to know in break-even point for multi-product company. For better understanding, I will advise you watch my first 2 videos on this topic. So now let me take so I'm going to take 2 work examples. Example 1. BJS Limited produces and sells the following 3 products. Products X, Y, Z. The selling price per unit is $16, $20 US, and $10. Variable cost per unit $5, $15, and $7 for X, Y, and Z respectively. Contribution per unit, that is the difference between selling price and the variable cost. You have $11, $5, and $3. Budgeted sales volume 50,000 units for X, 10,000 units for Y, and 100,000 units for Z. The company expects the fixed cost to be $450,000 for the coming year. Assume that sales arise throughout the year in a constant mix required. A. Calculate the weighted CS ratio for the products. CS ratio, that is contribution margin ratio for the products. B. You have to calculate the break-even sales revenue required. C. Calculate the margin of safety required. D. Calculate the revenue required to achieve a target profit of $900,000. So that is the question. Now the solution. The name of the entity is BJS Limited. We have BJS Limited. Requirement 1. You have to calculate the break-even sales. Calculate the weighted CS ratio for the products. You want to compute the weighted CS ratio. CS ratio means contribution to sales ratio, which is CMR, which is the same as our CMR, contribution margin ratio. I said the weighted CS ratio is weighted contribution over weighted sales, weighted selling price. I've told you that where the sales mix is not given, the sales volume, that is budgeted sales volume, that is your sales quantity, will be assumed to be, will be used as the weight. So in this case, 50,000, 10,000, 100,000 will be used as our weight. Now, I'll tell you that weighted CS ratio is weighted contribution over weighted selling price. So you need to determine the weighted contribution. 3 products are involved. We have product X, Y, and Z. Let me include total. Total, then Z, Y, and X. Now, our contribution margin, CM. To get the weighted contribution, your contribution margin has been given. We have 11, 5, and $3 for X, Y, and Z respectively. We have $11, we have $5, and $3. I've told you that you are going to use sales volume as the weight. Sales volume or budgeted sales volume. For X, the budgeted sales volume is 50,000 for X, 10,000 for Y, and 100,000 for Z. We have 50,000 units, 10,000 units, and 100,000 units. Therefore, weighted CM, weighted contribution margin. So you multiply your contribution margin by your sales volume. 11 times 50,000. That will be 550,000. I've told you that your weighted sales volume, where sales mix is not given, is the same as calculating the total contribution. So we have $550,000 weighted CM, $550,000. Then 5 times 1 times 10,000. This will give us $50,000. Then 3 times 100,000. That will give us $300,000. What is the total weighted cm. 550,000 plus 50,000, that will be 600,000, plus 300,000, that gives us 900,000. Therefore, the total weighted cm is 900,000. Then we also need, we have got the numerator, weighted contribution. We also need weighted selling price. Weighted selling price. I've told you that to calculate the weighted selling price, you multiply the selling price per unit by the sales volume. Selling price per unit times sales volume. And you have three products. Let's have total product Z, Y, X. The selling price. The selling price of X. We have the selling price to be selling price $16, $20, and $10 for X, Y, and Z respectively. So 16, 20, 10. $16, $20, and $10. Then sales volume now. Sales volume for X. The sales volume is 50,000 units, 10,000 units for Y, and 100,000 units. I've told you that sales volume is the same as sales quantity. 50,000, 10,000, and 100,000. So we have 50,000 units, 10,000 units, and 100,000 units. That is the sales volume. Therefore, weighted selling price now. So we have 16 times 50,000. That gives us $800,000. I've told you that the weighted selling price is the same as, will be the same as the total sales revenue. It will be the same as the total sales revenue where the sales mix is not given. 20 times 10,000. Then we have 200,000 for Y. 200,000. That of Z, 10 times 100,000. That gives us $1 million. So by the time you sum it up, 800,000 plus 200,000, that will be 1 million, plus 1 million. Therefore, the weighted sales volume is $2 million. $2 million. That is the addition of the three. Having got the weighted sales volume, we have got the denominator. We have calculated the numerator and the denominator. Therefore, you can calculate the weighted CS ratio, or the weighted CMR, or weighted CS ratio, which is weighted contribution over weighted selling price. Therefore, weighted CS ratio, or weighted CMR, equal to weighted contribution. And our weighted contribution margin is $900,000 over weighted selling price, and that is obtained to be $200,000, $2 million. If you divide 900,000 by 2 million, that gives us $0.45. That is the weighted CS ratio. That is the answer to A. B. Calculate the break-even sales revenue required. Break-even sales revenue, which is fixed cost over weighted CMR, or weighted CS ratio. The fixed cost, our fixed cost amounted to, you have the fixed cost of $450,000. $450,000. We have 450,000 divided by weighted CMR. I've told you that your CMR is the same as CS ratio, and that is 0.45. So if you divide the 450,000 by 0.45, that gives us $1 million. Therefore, break even sales revenue equals to $1 million. If you are to compute break even in unit, you are going to apportion the break even sales revenue of 1 million by the weighted selling price. You apportion it. Then the result obtained for each of the products, you now divide it by the selling price in order to get the break even sales volume. Now, requirement C. Calculate the margin of safety required. Calculate the margin of safety required. I've told you that margin of safety, I said it is the difference between the budgeted sales and the break-even level of sales. Margin of safety. Margin of safety equals to budgeted sales minus break-even level of sales. And to compute your margin of safety ratio, MOS ratio, you now divide the margin of safety you have obtained using this formula by the budgeted sales. So that means the formula becomes budgeted sales minus the break-even point over budgeted sales times 100. This gives us the margin of safety ratio. Therefore, back to the question. Calculate the margin of safety required. What is the budgeted sales? Your budgeted sales is your total sales revenue as obtained. Your weighted selling price, that is the total sales revenue, which is 2 million. So we have 2 million as calculated minus the break-even point of sales in value. And our break-even point is equally obtained by, is obtained as $1 million. So we have minus $1 million divided by the budgeted sales, which is $2 million times 100. If you have 2 million minus 1 million, that gives us 1 million. 1 million divided by 2 million, that will be, so if you subtract this, our numerator will be 1 million over denominator we have $2 million times 100. That gives us 50%. That is the margin of safety ratio. That is the answer to the requirement C. Now, the requirement D now. Requirement D. Back to the question. Calculate the revenue required to achieve a target profit of 900,000. Value of sales now to achieve a targeted profit. If you have watched my earlier presentation where I consider the various formula for break-even analysis, then you will know the right formula to use. So the formula is fixed cost plus targeted profit over CMR. Our fixed costs still remain 450,000. And our targeted profit is 900,000. Therefore, our fixed cost 450,000 plus 900,000 over weighted CMR. And our weighted CMR as calculated earlier in requirement A is 0.45. So if you have 450,000 plus 900,000, that gives us 1,350,000 divided by 0.45. We have $3 million. So that gives us $3 million. Therefore, value of sales to achieve profit of $900,000 is $3 million. Example 2. Okonkwo Adebayo Limited manufactures 4 products at its Idiaba plant in the state capital of Idiare. The budgeted sales and cost structure of the organization in the forthcoming year 2023 is as follows. You have the products A, B, C, and D. The selling price for A, B, C, and D is 30, 20, 45, and 10 respectively. And the total sales revenue is as given. Then the variable cost is equally given, and you are given the total contribution. The budgeted fixed cost for the same period is 400,000 naira. Required. A. How many units of each product will have to be sold in order to break even? B. How many units of each product will have to be sold to attain a profit of 200,000 naira? Now, let's have the solution. The name of entity is Okonkwo Adebayo Limited. Okonkwo Adebayo Limited. Now, back to requirement A. How many units of each product will have to be sold in order to break even? I've told you that since this is a multi-product, more than one product, I've told you that to calculate the break-even point for multi-product companies, that the first step is to calculate the weighted CMR. Step 1. Step 1, calculate the weighted CMR, contribution margin ratio. I've said the weighted CMR equals to weighted contribution margin times over weighted selling price. Weighted selling price. The weighted contribution margin. I've told you that weighted contribution margin is contribution margin, that is contribution per unit, multiplied by the sales volume or budgeted sales in units. So I've told you that the sales volume is the quantity or number of units sold. And if you go by this question, you are given the total contribution. I've told you that the weighted contribution, where the sales mix is not given, will be the same as the total contribution. Now you have the contribution for product A to be 108,000. That of B is 378,000. C we have 324,000. And that of D we have 19,000. Then the total contribution is 900,000, which is our weighted contribution. So the weighted contribution is 900,000. Overweighted selling price. The weighted selling price, I told you that it will be obtained by multiplying the selling price per unit by the number of units sold or sales volume. And that will also give us the total sales. It will also give us the total sales. And we have been given the total sales to be 540,000. That means the total sales will be obtained by multiplying the selling price by the sales volume. 540,000, 630,000, 405,000, 225,000. We have the total of 1.8 million. Therefore, weighted selling price is 1.8 million naira. If you divide the 900,000 by 1.8, therefore, weighted CMR will be equal to 0.5. That is step 1. Step 2. I said you calculate the overall BEP in sales value. In sales value for all the products. Now let's compute the BEP in sales value for all the products, and I told you that will be obtained by dividing the fixed cost by the weighted CMR. Total fixed cost over weighted CMR. Now, what is our total fixed cost? The budgeted fixed cost for the same period is 400,000. So you have total fixed cost to be 400,000 divided by the weighted CMR as calculated. We have 0.5. If you have 400,000 divided by 0.5, that gives us 800,000. That is the overall BEP in sales value. Step 3. I told you that in step 3 you apportion the overall sales revenue, overall break-even point in sales value. You apportion it using the weighted selling price. Apportionment now, that is the next step. That is, you want to apportion it using the weighted selling price. You have 4 products. Product A, B, C, and D. Then you have the weighted selling price. Remember, I've told you that this weighted selling price is the product of the selling price and the sales volume, which is sales quantity, which will also give you the total sales revenue. So weighted selling price for product A, our sales is 540,000. That of B, 630,000. A, 540,000. B, 630,000. Sales for product C, 405,000. And why that of D is 225,000? 405,000 and 225,000. The total of all those sales is 1.8 million. 1.8 million. Then, what is the BEP in sales value for each of the products? Product A, we have the sales value to be 540,000. Out of 1.8 million multiplied by our break-even point, which is 800,000. 800,000 as obtained divided by 1.8 million times 540,000. Then we have 240,000. 40,000 naira. That is the break-even point in sales value for the product A. That of product B, we have 630,000 over 1.8 million times 800,000. That gives us 280,000 naira. That of product C, we have 45,000 over 1.8 million times 800,000. We have 180,000 naira. That of product D, 225,000 over 1.8 million times 800,000. That gives us 100,000. That is the break-even point of sales revenue. Then the step 4, you calculate the BEP in units. I've told you that to calculate the BEP in units, you divide the BEP sales revenue or BEP in value by the selling price. Now remember the weighted CMR as obtained is 0.5. So what is now the BEP in units now? Step 4. BEP in units, which will be BEP in sales value divided by the selling price. So you have 4 products, A, B, C, and D. Product A, the BEP in sales value for product A is 240,000. The BEP in sales value for product B, 280,000. The BEP in sales value for product C, 180,000. While that of product D is 100,000. We have 180,000 and 100,000. So you now divide the BEP in sales value by the selling price. The selling price of product A is 30, that of B is 20, C 45, D 10. 30, 20, 45, 10. 30, 20, 45, and 10. So when you divide the BEP in sales value by the selling price, you have the BEP units now. So BEP in units. So 240,000 divided by 30. The BEP units for product A is 8,000 units. That of B, 280,000 divided by 20. You have 14,000 units. That of C, 180,000 divided by 45. We have 4,000 units. That of D, 100,000 divided by 10. That gives us 10,000 units. That is the BEP in sales value. Requirement B. How many units of each product will have to be sold to attain a profit of 200,000? To determine the number of units that will be sold to achieve a targeted profit, you first of all calculate the sales revenue required to achieve a targeted profit. Value of sales or sales value or sales revenue required to achieve a targeted profit That will be fixed cost plus targeted profit over weighted CMR. And our fixed cost, as given in the question, is 400,000 naira. And the targeted profit is 200,000. So we have fixed cost of 400,000 plus targeted profit of 200,000 divided by our weighted CMR as calculated earlier, which is 0.5. 400,000 plus 200,000, that gives us 600,000. 600,000 divided by 0.5, we have 1.2 million naira. That is the sales revenue. Then I'll tell you that the next step is the apportionment. You apportion the sales revenue to the products. We have products A, B, C, and D. Weighted selling price or weighted sales value. Our sales revenue as given. We have 540,000, 630,000. 540,000, 630,000. That of C, we have 405,000 and 225,000. 405,000 and 225,000. The total is 1.8 million. Now, we apportion the overall sales value required to achieve a targeted profit of 1.2 million by the sales revenue. So we have the BEP in sales value for each of the products. Product A, we have 540,000 out of the total of 1.8 million. No sales value or weighted selling price for product A is 540,000 over 1.8 million times the overall BEP in sales value of 1.2 million. Then you have 1.2 million divided by 1.8 million times 540,000. You have 360,000 naira for product A. Product B, 630,000 over 1.8 million times 1.2 million. That gives us we have 420,000. 420,000 naira. For product C, we have 405,000 out of 1.8 million times 1.2 million. That gives us we have 270,000 naira. That's for product D. We have 225,000 out of 1.8 million times 1.2 million. That gives us $150,000. That is the break-even point in sales value for each of the products. Now, to calculate number of units required to achieve the profit of 200,000, number of units required to achieve the targeted profit. You know, you have 4 products, A, B, C, and D. Our break-even point the sales revenue for product A as obtained, we have 360,000. That of B, we have 420,000. 360,000, 420,000. And that of product C, we have 270,000 and 150,000 for D. 270,000, 150,000. And the selling price of product A, we have 30. That of B, we have 20. Divided by 30, divided by 20, divided by, for product C, the selling price is 45. And while the selling price of product D is 10. Divided by 45 and divided by 10. So the number of units now required. So we have 360,000 divided by 30. That gives us 12,000 units. For B, 420,000 divided by 20, we have 21,000 units. For C, 270,000 divided by 45, that gives us 6,000 units. That of D, 150,000 divided by 10, you have 15,000 units. That is the end of the solution. Now, this is the end of my presentation on break-even point for multi-product companies. My subsequent video, in my subsequent videos, I will provide further work example to complement my earlier presentation. Please don't forget to share the video with others and also like it. Thanks for watching acca.